wanted to do a video about a few different things. First thing is the topic of the title, which is aesthetic synthwave guitar. And then at the end of the video, I'll do a little bit of an update on my channel and my plans. So I want to do a longer video about this, but I was thinking today, and I've thought a lot for a while now about what place the electric guitar has in the sort of retro synthwave aesthetic vaporwave kind of influenced, or any kind of music that targets that fan base. And I want to be as inclusive as possible when I bring up this subject, because I'm not just talking about the use of electric guitar in vaporwave, but I also want to talk about it in, of course, synthwave, stuff like the Midnight, Time Cop, Gunship. Big one that I want to talk about is My Roan. I think that's how it's pronounced whenever I've heard him say it, My Roan. If you haven't heard of them, 2 tracks to check out before I make the full video. Exclusive Coupe, Keep It On, those are his biggest ones. They sound, and Drift Stage, which Drift Stage is a good one to bring up because a lot of his earlier stuff really sounds like it's designed to be for the soundtrack of a Mario Kart game or some kind of a racing game, maybe like Ridge Racer for the PlayStation console. And his guitar work is extremely reminiscent of that 80s hair metal sort of tone, but it's very, very intricate and has that heavier sort of edgy tone to it, with a lot of kind of modulation, distortion, kind of a Marshall sort of tone, which is something that I've gravitated towards since I got into bands like Journey and Foreigner and the more hair metal bands like Motley Crue, Poison, Twisted Sister. All those bands have some great songs. Whitesnake, especially their time with Steve Vai in the band. So My Roan is the first one that comes to mind when we're talking about like synthwave and that sort of sound. And his music is almost entirely instrumental based. It's very groove based, but it would appeal to that kind of crowd that is into that sort of arena rock sound, or the sound of those bands that I mentioned from the 80s. And then the next one I thought of was like LeBrock, which, if you think of like Please Don't Cry, the guitar comes in and it's do 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 do. Oh, it's just it's very much like there's a lot of synth in that track in Please Don't Cry, but the synth works with the guitar in a way that the guitar is very important. The guitar is very much driving the music, which is something that I'm used to from the sort of music that I grew up with, the Matchbox 20s and the Foo Fighters of the world, and even you go back to kind of before that alternative rock sort of tone, you go into like grunge with even with like Nirvana, the guitar, so prominent and so important. And then this the synthwave genre, I've felt like for a long time is really this big kind of melding of those arena rock, Foreigner, Journey, Styx, the Police kind of tones. I think that those different eras of arena rock, eras, within like 15 years or so, there was just kind of different, all different eras. What else can you call it? And that new wave tone of like Tears for Fears, New Order, Pet Shop Boys, China Crisis, of course, orchestral maneuvers in the dark, a melding of those two sounds. And then I didn't want to keep it just on that. By the way, I've made a playlist to start trying to compile that, and you can find that on this channel, which I recently have changed the name to Retro McMahon, if you didn't notice. So, it's called Aesthetic / Synthwave Guitar, and this is really, again, I'm not just looking at stuff like my own, which is extremely guitar focused, but I'm also wanting to look at synthwave and retro themed and vaporwave tracks that feature guitar in a way where the guitar is one of the focal points of the song. The same way the synth often is in vaporwave and synthwave. I mean, it's called synthwave. So, but we're often when we hear guitar, it's this sound that's very much influenced by the 80s again. And so that was something that I was very excited to hear when I started getting into synthwave, because even though I play the synthesizer and keys and piano in that, and I've been messing around making techno and electronic beats for 20 years now, probably close to that. Since like MySpace was a thing and I had an account on there. But I've been playing guitar for just as long, and really I've been focused on guitar for a longer time. So I've been thinking, and I've been wanting to like get together a video, like a longer video, vlog of sorts, about the top synthwave aesthetic retro tracks that feature guitar. And again, I really want to emphasize that I'm not just thinking of synthwave. I want to include some vaporwave stuff too. George Clanton, particularly in Slide, uses some neat kind of shoegazy, dream pop sort of guitar riffs, and with a lot of like fuzz or modulation and that kind of thing. So there's some tracks where he does some of that. Surfing, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It's hard to remember things when you put yourself on the spot sometimes. But if you're not familiar with surfing, they have an album called, I believe, Deep Fantasy, that came out a number of years ago. Dan Bell has it on a few of his Dead Mole videos, and it is an amazing album. But more recently, they've put out a couple albums, especially their most recent one, which the name eludes me, but I'll try to get some of those tracks up on the playlist, that does use some guitar, some neat kind of psychedelic guitar tones, I believe. So that's kind of what I'm starting to think of. Bad Dreamers, The Bad Dreamers, I should say, is a really good one. A lot of their songs are very guitar driven. I would say Who You Run To is a really good one. California Winter, and California Winter's great. That California Winter, and the guitars go do 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 do. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna make a longer video. I'll play little clips from the songs and focus on tracks and maybe try to learn some of the riffs. So that's coming up, and if you watch this in the next few days or in the next week or so before it takes, before I get that video out, please in the comments, leave me some suggestions. I want to mention some, I guess I think I would call them like synthwave adjacent bands, like Night Traveler and The Night Game. If you haven't heard of those bands, they're touch on a couple of things that have been happening in my life. So I left the job that I had been in for a little over 2.5 months. 2.5 years. Just a few months short of 3 years. I left that about 3 months ago. And still looking for something, but I sold off all of my guitars. Before that, to get a John Mayer Silver Sky, well, I ended up selling that to get some money to help me while I'm unemployed, and picked up this Strat, which is pretty nice. But I also sold a lot of what I was using for recording, partially just for the little bit of extra money, but it also wasn't really like the greatest quality of whatnot anyway. So I'm looking to get like a GoPro and a recording interface as soon as I have the funds. I have some recording software set up and a little bit of like older gear that I've been working on figuring out how to get it to work, just stuff that wouldn't be worth selling for any kind of money. And yeah, I'm looking to do some videos with that. It's going to be a bit more complicated of a process, but it'll be better quality. I'm thinking I really want to expand my channel. If you haven't noticed, I've been posting some covers of some different styles. And I've always had some retro stuff from different kinds of pop and rock up here. And so the big idea would be to make this a channel that's focused primarily on different sorts of retro music and their influences. Maybe I'll do movies from time to time, and some of the weirder stuff that I've talked about, like liminal spaces. I'll still do a little bit of that, but I want to kind of bring the focus into just retro music in general, and primarily modern retro music, like synthwave stuff that I mentioned here, and vaporwave, of course, anything that is influenced by that retro sound. So, if you watch this at any point, I don't have a lot of subscribers right now, but if you watch this at any point and you're like, well, I saw this video and you did this, let me know. I want to revisit anything that people are actually interested in watching or hearing about or talking about. Yeah. So if you see this and this is your first time here, and you want the videos that I'm talking about, please subscribe. Please like the video. Thanks.